Remember when Marvel advertised the new Warriors, a new group of laughable woke superheroes with ridiculous names and stupid powers, and we thought, good lord, could Marvel sink any lower? Well, they answered the question, and the answer to that question is yes, they very much certainly can. So we're going to talk about X-Men Green. Now, this book was brought to my attention by a commenter on one of my other videos, and then I looked and saw that there's a lot of news and talk about this comic, so I decided to activate my trial membership of Marvel Unlimited, since this is a digital exclusive on their website, and give it a read and tell you what I think. And just for a starter, I will not be renewing my subscription to Marvel Unlimited if this is the content they're going to be throwing at us. So let's dive into X-Men Green. So X-Men Green follows Nature Girl. Nature Girl is kind of a lesser-known mutant X-Men character. I think she comes from New Warriors, if I'm not mistaken, and she's got some weird Earth-based nature powers. And she comes across a turtle who is choking on a plastic bag from a grocery store. So she unfurls the grocery store and sees that it comes from a convenience store in Las Vegas, Nevada. So Lord knows how it ended up in Krakoa, but anyway, that's not here nor there. She finds the bag. She finds out the store it belongs to and does what any noble environmental crusader would do. She goes to Nevada, finds a convenience store owner, and slashes his throat for potentially choking a turtle with a bag that he probably didn't put in the ocean himself or have anything to do with. But that's her form of justice, and that is the book that we're in for now. So then we meet up with this little psychopath. His name is Curse. Curse just thinks killing people is metal, and so wants to join Nature Girl because Nature Girl's going on a murder spree. And murder spree they do. They go killing convenience store workers, truckers, oil refinery workers, engineers, anybody who she deems is bad for the earth just deserves to die, in her opinion. And with every death, she proclaims how this makes her feel alive, how she's addicted to it, how every person she kills makes her pain of the earth simply go away for a small time until it comes back and she has to kill again. It's not only until the X-Men are threatened with legal action of being sued that the X-Men finally decide, hey, one of our own went on a murder spree. Maybe we should go do something about it. So they dispatch Wolverine to go ahead and track these two down, which he does, and he brings to trial. The entire time, Wolverine is tracking them and ultimately brings them in. We're being treated as to how, none of us feel right about this. This doesn't feel like the right course of action. Should we be arresting this person, or is she doing the right thing because she's doing it for the Earth? And I'm thinking to myself, this person's killed dozens of people at this point. She's violated every law of Krakoa. Why is this even a question? She's a villain. She's a straight villain, but this book refuses to portray her and her group as villains. It's the weirdest thing in the world. So she ends up being brought in front of the Council of Krakoa, who begrudgingly vote that she killed humans, which is based on the Krakoan era of X-Men, just something you can't do. And so they're going to go ahead and put her in the stasis prison deep in the bowels of Krakoa. But before they do, Krakoa itself, the island, objects. It does not agree with the vote, but it agrees to do what they asked because that was what the consensus was. So once she's stunk down there, though, Cypher, who speaks for Krakoa, comes down and lets her know that the island and the council are pardoning her. And not only are they pardoning her, but they're arming her and Curse with new Krakoan weapons that are going to help her be more effective at her job, when give her the warning of just go out there and be more careful next time. And they just kind of let her go back into the world. And the comic book ends with the threat of X-Men Green will return. So where do we go from here? First of all, this comic book is offensive in pretty much every way a comic book can be offensive. And it's really easy, or it would be really easy, for me to just go on a rant about how this is just a self-insert environmental lecture box where somebody just took their political beliefs, put it into a comic book, and they're just bludgeoning us over their head with their beliefs. But it kind of goes a little bit worse than that. We'll talk about that in a second. First of all, the characters themselves. I don't know what to make of them. Are they the villains of the book? They're the main central character. Am I supposed to be rooting for them? I mean, it's literally two super-powered mutants, and they eventually get a couple more people that come into the book. But either way, these are super-powered individuals just versus regular people that are going to their jobs every day and have no stake in their struggle. But this character is taking it upon herself to just go and wipe people out for the sins of environmentalism. So it's a very odd take. And as the book goes on, the people that she kills, the writer goes out of his way to make sure that the characters are portrayed as ridiculously evil as possible. Every time you see a person they're about to die, they're talking about how they're like beating their kids or cheating on their wives or stealing or something. And then there's even a scene where she's going to this oil pipeline where she's going to presumably destroy it and kill anybody that's there that tries to prevent her from doing so. And there's a group of protesters there. And the dialogue, the literal dialogue from the book is the protesters are chanting that we respectfully ask you to stop. Now, I'm from California and really just a stone's throw from Berkeley. And I've seen environmental protests, and that is not at all how they speak. They use very curse language, and, for their mindset, rightfully so. They think the earth is at stake. They're going to be as shocking and blatant as possible to get their message across. But the point is, this is an inaccurate portrayal of environmentalists. Then we go back to the oil workers. Their response to these environmentalists is to pick up hammers and wrenches and make a comment about how they get bonuses in their paychecks for every hippie skull they crack. And I don't think that's accurate either. I mean, what world is this? What world view is this that he's trying to convey? And that's where this gets really disturbing to me. So at its best, if I'm to give this writer any credit at all, I would say that this book suffers from what I like to call the Thanos problem. Now, the Thanos problem is this. Thanos was a compelling villain because even though he was vile and wretched and what he was trying to do was horrific, he had this point to it. This half the resources aren't sufficient for the amount of life in the universe. So he is the only one that knows that the only solution is to cut that life in half or, get rid of half of every living being. And that way there's plenty for everybody. And the universe is going to go on in, prosperity and peace. And so you can see his logic, you see his thought process, you see that there's a noble goal there, but his problem is he is relentlessly evil in pursuit of that goal. And then just to show his true heart of villainy, when it comes into his animus of his calculus of who is the half of people that will or will not cease to exist, I'm certain that as random as he claims it would be, that he had pretty much already determined that he himself was going to stay in the half that did exist. So, and I would imagine that would be the same for any of his followers that would have survived the movie. But that being said, they never try to portray Thanos as a sympathetic character, or try to make you root for this character. He is evil. He is relentlessly evil. They show him as nothing but a villain. It's just he is a more compelling villain because you understand his motivation. So, and I think a lot of writers are trying to mimic this model, but in doing so, you have to remember that you're still writing the villain. Their motivations can be whatever they are. Magneto, in his villainous days, always had the motivation of he's trying to protect his new people from another genocide, being a survivor of the Holocaust. But his methodology and his way of going about it still makes him evil. So it's just, you can understand where he comes from. And I think that gets lost with a lot of writers these days. So, I mean, at its worst, what I would say about this book is the worldview of the writer of this book is very disturbing in the sense that the villains in this book aren't supervillains. They're not even like cartoonishly evil heads of corporation. I mean, Marvel's got the Roxxon Corporation, which is like this evil version of Exxon, and their CEO was always some cartoonishly evil character. That would be one thing, but I mean, these are guys that punch time clocks. I mean, these are guys whose only crime was they wanted to go work a hard job to put food on the table of their families, and they really kind of present the idea that it's okay that these people die because it's for the greater good of the earth. It's a hard, I mean, it was really hard to read. This was a chore for me to get through. I was really having trouble just going through this story, and I was waiting for the moment where she finally turns to that villainous side, and it's just the writer takes her as irredeemable, but it never really happens. She's always painted as kind of this shade of gray, but her actions are not at all like a shade of gray. I mean, picture the Punisher, but the Punisher, instead of hunting down criminals in the worst of society, he's just going after normal people for living their lives. That's what this person is doing. And it feels like the writer has a hatred for blue collar workers, for regular Americans or regular people like you and I who go to work every day, do their job, and come home. It was really a hard book and just a disturbing book to try to get through. There's a couple other characters that make their way in and out of the story. Sauron, at one point they encounter, and he is having the environment is wreaking havoc on his ability to bring the race of dinosaurs back to reality. And so he kind of gets mixed up and joins Curse and Nature Girl for a while. And then we encounter Black Mamba, who the oil companies have finally hired because this mutant psychopath is killing everybody. So they went out and hired Black Mamba to kind of protect it as the muscle. But even Black Mamba, who is a supervillain in Marvel Comics, they try to kind of portray her as, oh, I really don't want to be doing this, but, capitalism sucks, and I got to pay rent, and everything's expensive, and I can't afford anything. And why am I getting this rant from Black Mamba? I mean, Black Mamba's not a heroic character at all. She kind of usually, in her previous depiction, she kind of likes cracking heads. I mean, that's what she does. That's her power set. And she's a villainess for hire. Why am I having to sympathize with her, but I'm not sympathizing with the simple oil tech who just went to work that morning and got his head crushed by a rock by some mutant girl who came out and has a problem with the environment today? So what can I even say to conclude this video? I mean, the failures of Marvel's, the writer of this book, who's also the writer of the primary X-Men book, but just he's so out of touch with regular Americans and with American society, and every single line of dialogue in this book just demonstrates how removed from reality this person's worldview is. That's troublesome to me. Well, it's not really troublesome. I mean, it's just sad. I feel bad for anybody who would see the world with such contempt. But at the same time, how many editors had to look at this script and okay this along the way? When did nobody read this and think, you know what, this is a little much. Maybe we should, tone it down, or, if this is going to be the villain, maybe we need to make her a bit less sympathetic. I don't know. I don't know what could have been done. I think this premise is terrible at its core, and probably should have just been abandoned. And one of the tough things about doing environmentalists in a book like the X-Men is it's a hard sell to interject this particular real world problem, in the sense that the X-Men actually could potentially solve it if they wanted to. You have Storm can make it rain in the Sahara for a year straight. Iceman can literally create glaciers in the Atlantic. And before, you always kind of had the idea of, oh, well, the X-Men aren't really that powerful. They really couldn't do that if they wanted to. That's just above their power limit. And that's just always been kind of an unspoken thing. But here in the Krakoan era, I mean, they're currently using those same abilities and tricks to terraform Mars. So no, they could do this if they wanted to. So this isn't even a very realistic idea of how the X-Men would approach this problem. And the fact that the X-Men end up not even getting involved in the story until they're threatened with a legal or a lawsuit, they're going to be sued. That's what prompts them to action. And Professor Xavier makes a comment of, oh, well, this is really bad for our look. We should probably go do something about this. What in the world? What X-Men are these? This book successfully ruined the X-Men in my eyes. Now, I know a lot of people during this kind of Krakoan age of the X-Men have been saying they've been acting more like villains than heroes. And I can see that. I definitely see that comparison. But in this case, they're not even villainous. They're just callous. They don't care that people are being killed. They don't care until Emma Frost points out they're being sued for like $1 billion. And Professor Xavier says, oh, we're going to look really bad on the news if we let Nature Girl just keep doing this. So, I mean, yeah, they dispatch Wolverine, who's the best for the job. But even when he catches him, he's kind of like, oh, well, I'm really sorry I have to do this. It kind of sucks. But, what are we going to do? That's life. I agree with you. But, we can't get sued. So here we go. So I don't know. I hated this book on every level. I can't, obviously I'm not recommending it to anybody, but I can't even put in words enough. I mean, worst comic book I probably ever read in my life, and I have read thousands of comic books, and this was the most unpleasant reading experience of them all. This is my only experience so far with Marvel Unlimited, so needless to say, I will not be subscribing to that service. I actually canceled my free membership before I started making this video, so that's taken care of and done. I won't have to worry about that bill. And anyway, let me know in the comments below if you read this book, what your thoughts on it were. And let me know if this kind of thing appeals to you, if you see her point of view, if you sympathize with this character and her justification for killing 12.5 people. Or do you kind of see like I am? Like, this is a villain. Why is this even a question? The X-Men should have been dispatched on this just at the fact that she's a mutant mass murderer, or on her trail, on her way to becoming a mutant mass murderer, I should say. So let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, please hit like and subscribe. I am up to 800. I've been watching a YouTuber who does a count of his subscribers and says hello to all of them. So about 884 or 883 subscribers at the time of this recording. So hello to all 883 to you, and I hope to add to it. I hope you guys will come on board. We talk about comics, pop culture, all kinds of fun things. And I'm going to call it there, so I will see you on the next video. Talk to you then.